With the NHL draft coming up at the end of the month, I have a lot of draft-related content that I plan on uploading over these next couple of weeks, including remaking and updating some older videos that I've made on the channel, along with some other new ideas that I have. We're starting off simple. Today I'm going to go over the best player from every NHL draft since 2000, and if you're new to the channel and you want more draft-related videos in your sub boxes throughout the remainder of June, then be sure to hit that subscribe button. And with that all being said, let's go ahead and kick off the list with the 2000 NHL draft. This is an easy one. The best player has to be Henrik Lundqvist, who was selected in the 7th round, 205th overall, one of the biggest draft steals of all time. Didn't have a losing season in the NHL until the 2018-19 season, which was his second last year in the league. Finished his career 6th on the NHL's all-time wins list. Shockingly, only ever ended up winning one Vezina trophy, which came in 2012. Lundqvist was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2023. Unfortunately, throughout his playing career, he was never able to win the big one, but still, without a doubt, one of the best to ever do it. The 2001 NHL draft is up next. I'll give an honorable mention to Ilya Kovalchuk, who was the first overall draft pick and would probably actually have this spot had he not left for the KHL for 5 years during his prime. That being said, my pick for the best player definitely has to be Jason Spezza, the 2nd overall draft pick from 2001, made by the Ottawa Senators. Spezza is a guy who might not have ever been one of the absolute best players in the league, but throughout his prime, super consistent, 530-plus goal seasons, always a guy who you could rely on to be up there around a point per game. He's currently 2nd on the Ottawa Senators all-time points leaderboard, only behind Daniel Alfredsson, and Spezza remained a relatively productive player right up until the end of his career with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Would have been nice to see Spezza play maybe one more season to try and hit that 1,000 point mark. He ended up finishing his career just 5 points shy of it. He's one of those guys that is a fringe Hall of Famer. I would say some people think he should get in, some people don't, but whether he does or not, still had a fantastic career. Moving on now to the 2002 NHL draft, my pick for the best player is definitely Duncan Keith, who was selected in the 2nd round, 54th overall by the Chicago Blackhawks. Duncan Keith is a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, 2-time Norris Trophy winner, 1-time Conn Smythe winner as playoffs MVP. Definitely one of the best defensemen of our generation, and I think when he's eligible in 2025, this is a guy who is a lock for the Hockey Hall of Fame. Next up, we have the 2003 NHL draft, which is widely regarded as one of the best drafts of all time. My pick for the best player is another player who, like Duncan Keith, I think is a surefire Hall of Famer, Patrice Bergeron, who was selected in the 2nd round, 45th overall by the Boston Bruins. Probably the greatest two-way forward of all time. 6 Selke trophies, which is a record that I don't think will ever be broken. He finished his career with over 1,000 points, which currently ranks him 3rd on the Boston Bruins all-time points leaderboard, and based off of how good Patrice Bergeron still was in the last few seasons of his career, he's a guy that I think probably could have kept playing for at least a few more years. Really didn't even have to include these next 2 NHL drafts because the picks are so obvious, but we're going to do it anyways. 2004, the best player is 1,000% without a doubt the 1st overall draft pick, Alexander Ovechkin. As somebody born in 2001, growing up watching hockey throughout the 2010s, in my eyes, Alexander Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer of all time. His trophy case is absolutely insane, holds pretty much all of the franchise records when it comes to the Washington Capitals. He's a Calder Trophy winner as Rookie of the Year. He won an Art Ross Trophy as the league's leading point scorer. He's a 2-time Hart Trophy winner as league's MVP. Won the Rocket Richard as league's leading goal scorer 9 times, and similar to Bergeron's 6 Selke trophies, that is a record that I don't think will ever be broken. And most importantly, Alex Ovechkin is a Stanley Cup champion, and he won the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoffs MVP for that run. Ovechkin really has done it all. Really, the only thing left for him to do in his career at this point is pass Wayne Gretzky and finish his career as the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer, which I do believe he's going to do. Next up, we have the 2005 NHL draft. Another really obvious one here. It is 1000% Sidney Crosby, who is the 1st overall selection by the Pittsburgh Penguins. One of the best players of all time. I know a lot of people who grew up in this generation like me who have him as their GOAT. Just an absolutely absurd career. I think the longevity is probably the most impressive thing. At 36 years old, Crosby is still one of the best players in the league. He's never finished a season under a point per game, which is nuts. He's won the Rocket, a couple of Hart trophies, a few Art Ross trophies, and obviously a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, 2 of which included a Conn Smythe trophy for Crosby as well. And outside of the NHL, Crosby has had a ton of success at the international level as well. The World Juniors, the World Championships, World Cup of Hockey, and obviously the Olympics, where in 2010 he scored probably one of the most memorable goals in Canadian hockey history. Next up, we have the 2006 NHL draft, and my pick for the best player is going to be Jonathan Toews, who was the 3rd overall selection by the Chicago Blackhawks. Stamkos, a future Hall of Famer, somebody who throughout his prime was consistently one of the best centermen in the NHL, 12 20-plus goal seasons, strong defensively as well, won the Selke Trophy in 2013, and captained the Chicago Blackhawks to 3 Stanley Cups from 2010 to 2015, which in my opinion is a modern-day dynasty. Next up, we have the 2007 NHL Draft, and my pick for the best player is another guy who is a key piece for that Blackhawks modern-day dynasty, Patrick Kane, the first overall selection from 2007, one of the greatest Blackhawks of all time, second in franchise history in points, third in franchise history in playoff points, won the Calder Trophy with the Blackhawks as Rookie of the Year in 2008, the Conn Smythe as Playoffs MVP in 2013, and the Art Ross and Hart in 2016. He's arguably the greatest American-born player in NHL history. I know there's going to be people that say, well, no, it's Mike Modano. That's why I said arguably. The 2008 NHL Draft is up next, and my pick for the best player definitely has to be Steven Stamkos, the first overall selection made by the Tampa Bay Lightning. He is the Lightning's franchise leader in games played, goals, points, captained them to back-to-back Stanley Cups, 7 40-plus goal seasons throughout his career so far, easily one of the best goal scorers of this generation. Stamkos is set to become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st. Really intrigued to see what ends up happening with him. Obviously, Tampa Bay is pretty tight to the cap, but man, I really just can't see Steven Stamkos playing anywhere else. The 2009 NHL Draft is up next, and I feel like this one's debatable. I decided to give the edge to Victor Hedman over somebody like John Tavares, and a lot of that has to do with all of the playoff success Victor Hedman has had. 2-time Stanley Cup champion, including a Conn Smythe Trophy as playoffs MVP in 2020, also won the Norris Trophy in 2018. Victor Hedman has been one of the best defensemen in the NHL for going on a decade now. The 2010 NHL Draft is up next, and this is another one that I think is pretty debatable. I decided to go with Tyler Seguin over Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall does have the Hart Trophy over Tyler Seguin, but Hall's never won a cup. Tyler Seguin won a cup as a rookie with the Boston Bruins in 2011, and I feel like Seguin was more consistent throughout his prime, and I think Seguin's peak was a little bit longer than Taylor Hall's as well, and I mean, even still, Tyler Seguin's a very consistent 20-plus goal, 50-point guy. The 2011 Draft is up next, and this one is easily Nikita Kucherov, who wasn't selected until the second round with the 58th overall pick by the Tampa Bay Lightning. What an absolute steal of a pick. Kucherov has been one of the absolute best players in the entire league for 6 or 7 years now. He won the Art Ross, Hart, and Ted Lindsay Award in 2019. He scored 100-plus points 4 times, including a career-high 144 points this past season. Like Stamkos and Hedman, back-to-back cups in 2020 and 2021, and Kucherov is also the Tampa Bay Lightning's all-time leader in playoff points by quite a wide margin. His career isn't even close to being over at just 30 years old, but I think we can already say pretty confidently that Kucherov is a lock for the Hockey Hall of Fame one day. Next up, we have the 2012 Draft, which was a pretty weak class that I would definitely say was saved by some elite goaltenders. I decided to go with Andrei Vasilevsky as the best player from the 2012 Draft, but definitely a big honorable mention to Connor Hellebuck. Out of the last 5 drafts we've talked about, Andrei Vasilevsky is the 4th member of the Lightning that I've picked as the best player. Safe to say they did pretty well in drafts from 2008 to 2012. Vasilevsky has consistently been in the conversation for best goaltender in the league really ever since he became a full-time starter back in the 2016-17 season. He's the Tampa Bay Lightning's franchise leader in games played by a goaltender, wins, shutouts, saves, pretty much every goaltending category. He won the Vezina Trophy as league's best goaltender in 2019. Like Stamkos, Hedman, and Kucherov, he's got those back-to-back Stanley Cups, including a Conn Smythe Trophy as playoffs MVP in 2021. Moving on now to the 2013 Draft, this is an easy one. It has to be Nathan MacKinnon, who was selected first overall by the Colorado Avalanche. He took a little while to really get going, but once MacKinnon exploded for 97 points in 74 games in the 2017-18 season, he's never looked back, and he's been well over a point per game every season since, including a career-high 140 points this past season. Throughout his career, Nathan MacKinnon has always been a big-time playoff performer as well, even going back to his rookie season where he had 10 points in a 7-game playoff series against the Minnesota Wild. Well over a point per game for his playoff career, won the Stanley Cup with the Avalanche in 2022. MacKinnon is an absolute beast, and I think he's probably my pick for the Hart Trophy this year as well. Moving on now to the 2014 NHL Draft, my pick for the best player definitely has to be Leon Draisaitl, who was the 3rd overall selection by the Edmonton Oilers. 100-plus points in 5 of the last 6 seasons. The only season he didn't hit the 100-point mark was the shortened 56-game season, and he still didn't finish that far off. He had 84 points in 56 games. He won the Art Ross, the Hart, and the Ted Lindsay all in 2020, and similar to what I said about Nathan MacKinnon, Draisaitl is just an absurd playoff performer as well. In In terms of points per game in NHL history in the playoffs, the only players with a higher points per game in the playoffs than Draisaitl, McDavid, Lemieux, and Gretzky. Pretty good company. The 2015 NHL draft is up next, and I'm going with Mitch Marner of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the 4th overall selection by Toronto. I know he gets a lot of crap for underperforming in the Did I get you? How many did I get? How many of you are already down in the comments yelling at me? The best player from the 2015 draft is obviously Connor McDavid. At just 27 years old, McDavid's resume is absurd. 5 Art Ross trophies as league's leading point scorer, 3-time Hart Trophy winner as league's MVP, already almost at the 1,000 point mark, which is just crazy to even think about. He put up 100 plus points in every season of his career except for 2. One of those seasons was his rookie year where he got hurt, and the other season he finished with 97 points in 64 games the year that the league got shut down due to the virus. The following year, where teams only played 56 games, McDavid still able to hit the 100 point mark, which is just nuts. Connor McDavid is the best player in the NHL, and it's not even really a debate. It's been that way for a while. It's probably going to continue to be that way for quite a long time as well. When it's all said and done, Connor McDavid is going to go down as one of the greatest of all time. The 2016 draft is up next, and this is another really easy one. It is Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Already 6 40-plus goal seasons, including 2 60-goal years, a career-high 69 this past season, 1 short of 70. I was really hoping he would pull it off. Matthews won the Calder in 2017, won the Hart as league's MVP in 2022, and he's a 3-time Rocket Richard winner as the league's leading goal scorer. Matthews is the best goal scorer on the planet right now, and if he's not already, by the time his career ends, I think he's going to be looked at as the best Leaf in history. The 2017 NHL draft is up next, and this is yet another very obvious one. It has to be Cale Makar, the 4th overall selection by the Colorado Avalanche. After their disastrous 2016-17 season, I remember just the outrage and disappointment from Avalanche fans when they ended up falling to 4th in the draft lottery, and yet it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, as the Avalanche were able to land the best player in the draft at 4th overall, a franchise-altering defenseman, a generational talent. At just 25 years old, Cale Makar is already the Colorado Avalanche franchise leader in points at 336 in just 315 games. He won the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year, he won the Norris Trophy as league's best defenseman in 2022, and he won the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoffs MVP when Colorado won the Cup in 2022. The 2018 NHL draft is up next, and there's definitely a bit of recency bias playing a factor here, but my pick for the best player is Quinn Hughes, who was selected 7th overall by the Vancouver Canucks. As a defenseman, Quinn Hughes currently ranks 2nd in points by players from the 2018 draft class, and this past season he really took his game to just a whole other level, finished with a career-high 17 goals and 92 points, and it wasn't just the offensive production, he took his defensive game to another level as well, just really rounded out his game very nicely. I think he's going to end up winning the Norris Trophy, a franchise defenseman in every sense of the word. At just 24 years old, he's already 2nd in the Vancouver Canucks all-time points leaderboard by defensemen. It's only a matter of time before he passes Alex Edler, who almost played 1,000 games with the Canucks. The 2019 NHL draft is up next, and it definitely has to be the 1st overall selection, Jack Hughes, Quinn's younger brother. It took Jack Hughes a little bit to get going. His first few seasons in the league were pretty underwhelming, but over these last 3 seasons, he has really established himself as a superstar forward. Over the last 3 seasons, ranks 12th in the entire NHL in points per game, already one of the best centermen in the entire league, and at just 24 years old, I'm expecting it to remain that way for the next decade or so. The 2020 NHL draft is up next, and we're getting into that range now where it's still very early and things can definitely change, but I think the best player from the 2020 draft so far has been Tim Stützle. A bit of a step back this season in point production from his career-high 90-point season the year prior, but still finished with 70 points in 75 games. I think Stützle is a game breaker and someone that has the potential to have multiple 100-plus point seasons throughout his career. Next up, we have the 2021 NHL draft. Honorable mention to Matty Beniers, who was selected 2nd overall by the Kraken, but I think it's got to be Wyatt Johnston so far, who was selected 23rd overall by the Stars, scored 24 goals as a rookie in 2022-23, and really took his game to another level this season. 32 goals, 65 points, and in my opinion was their best forward throughout their playoff run, 16 points in 19 games. Not gonna lie, kinda stings that the Dallas Stars got Wyatt Johnston with the pick. Detroit traded them to move up in the draft to select Sebastian Cossa, but hey, it's whatever. I just, really hope Sebastian Cossa is good. The 2022 NHL draft is up next, and again, obviously still very early. Only 22 players from this class have even appeared in an NHL game yet, but I feel like the best player so far has to be Slafkovsky, who is the first overall pick. After an underwhelming rookie year, Slafkovsky broke out this season with 20 goals and 50 points in 82 games, and the second half of the year was where he really popped off and came into his own. That line of Caulfield, Slafkovsky, and Suzuki, when put together, was dynamite. I think that line has the potential to be one of the best in the NHL for a very long time, and Slafkovsky's somebody that I'm expecting to have a really big year next season. And now finally finishing out the video with the 2023 NHL draft. No big surprise here, it is Connor Bedard, the first overall selection made by the Chicago Blackhawks. As an 18-year-old rookie this season, Connor Bedard finished the year tied for the Blackhawks team leading goals with 22, led the team in assists with 39, and led the team in points with 61, despite only playing in 68 games. One of the best seasons points per game wise by an 18-year-old in NHL history. He's going to win the Calder Trophy this year, and I know it's only been one season, but I can't imagine this one's going to change. I think 20 years from now, we're going to look back at this draft, and the answer is going to be the same, and Connor Bedard's going to be the best player to come from this class. So that is going to wrap up today's video, going over the best player from every NHL draft since 2000. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I have a lot of draft related content planned for the channel over these next couple of weeks as we inch closer and closer to the 2024 NHL draft. So if you're new to the channel and you're interested in seeing more videos like this, then be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you got all the way to the end and you ended up enjoying yourself, please remember to leave the video a like. It does help out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know that you enjoyed. I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend, and I'll talk to you all again soon.